Hi everyone, thank you for this moment. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you for those feedback which I'm getting. And to thank those who are subscribing, those who are watching, liking, and even sharing. And I will urge you, this is a session where we are learning together, and I will definitely urge you to, if you watch us, kindly subscribe and like, share our videos. Not because we want more likes, but because we want to learn together. It is important that we learn, share the information, share the knowledge, and even the wisdom. That is, in case we have wisdom in what we are saying. It is important to look into these aspects and come out with them in a manner which can help you in one way or the other. Yes, as you know, today we are going to talk about something just the way we talk about other things before. And today I'm going to talk about something which is very common in where you work, where you interact with people, colleagues, those who are in school. This is topic which is familiar, or this is something which is familiar. And to introduce it, I'm going to talk about peer pressure. What is peer pressure? Today I'm not going to teach you English. It is not an English session, and therefore I'm just going to give you a layman's or my understanding of peer pressure. Just from the word peer pressure. Peer is a group of people. You can be a group of people working together, colleagues, or you can be a group of people studying together, students, or you're a group of people who are in a particular group. So the peer, then the pressure usually comes when there's something which is pressing you to do. Maybe you are in a particular group, and the rest of the group are doing something, and because you don't want to feel out of the group, you start doing that thing. So that is the pressure which comes from the group. So you start doing that particular thing. You've heard about drinking alcohol. When you talk with people who are addicted to alcohol, they will, when you ask them how did this thing come about, they will tell you that it is due to peer pressure. I was in this kind of group and everybody was drinking, so I never wanted to feel that I was not part of the group, so I started drinking, or any other thing. But mostly we'll talk about the drug abuse. We have alcohol, we have bang, we have cocaine, and the rest, name them. People will talk about we started this thing because of the peer pressure. So that is the layman definition of peer pressure. And peer pressure, the question which I'm going to pose today is it really peer pressure which push us to do these things? Is it really peer pressure? You see, today I was asking myself a lot of questions about this issue to do with peer pressure. I've never heard somebody saying, I was born again because of the peer pressure. I was in this group of people and all of them were born again, and because of the pressure, I wanted to belong. I got born again. Or you will hear somebody talking, saying that, you see, me I stop drug abuse because my peer, the pressure I was getting from my friends, my colleagues and group, I stopped drinking, I stopped abusing drugs, I did that, I did this and that. Or simply to say, I started doing something positive because of the peer pressure. I've never heard about that. Because when we talk about peer pressure, we should be talking about both sides. Did the peer pressure just made you start doing something negative, or did the peer pressure made you start doing something positive? So I try to analyze the peer pressure. There are reasons why people will say, it is because of the peer pressure that I did this. Huh? It is because I didn't want to hurt their feelings. The question I'm going to pose before I continue is that, did these people realize that they were also going to hurt your feelings? Why were you much concerned about hurting their feelings than them hurting your feelings? Why you started doing something because of peer pressure? But today I want to tell you that if you do the math, if you do the calculation, or if you do the probability, you'll realize that maybe the peer pressure did a very little towards what you're doing today, towards why you're behaving the way you're behaving. It is solely you. I like humans. Humans are these kind of creatures who will always find something to blame whenever they face problem, whenever they have an issue, when they did a mistake some time back, or they did a mistake just some few minutes ago, and they, from their conscience will let them know that, you see, you've done a mistake, and this guilt is very heavy on you. So what you need to do is to find something to blame. It happens most of the time. So I think peer pressure is just something which somebody came up with so that they can find something to blame when the mistake they did, the consequences are now very heavy on them. So you realize that they come up with this thing called peer pressure, so that at the end of the day they will have something to blame for the condition which they are in. You see, it is like our bosses where we work. You see, a boss will need, or a manager, they will always need something positive. They will always need a reason why something is not happening. You see, maybe you may fail to meet your target, but your boss will come and ask you, why didn't you meet your target? You'll not just keep quiet and you tell boss, I did not meet the target because this and this. Boss will always expect something positive from you. So what usually happens is that we always find something to blame for our mistakes. We find something to blame after doing a mistake. So you realize that our minds get clouded. When our minds get clouded, we don't find the proper solution to the problems we have, because we already have something to blame for the problem, for the mistake we did. For example, the peer pressure which we are talking about today. It is something that we have abused, not once, not even twice, more than many times, because it is where we usually fall when you interact with your friends. For example, those who have really get into addiction of drinking, of smoking ban, those people who have completely immersed themselves into the drug addiction, and they will tell you, they will cry, they will tell you, no, I really want to stop, and I don't know how I'm going to stop. And they will even tell you that, guys, if you have not started doing this, please don't, because if you get addicted, getting out of this mud is not easy. So when you ask them, and how did you start? How did this happen? The first thing they will rush to is the peer pressure. I was in this group, and this group, and this group pushed me, and none of them is not here. So today, the reason why I brought this topic is, I understand the peer pressure thing, and I understand how the peer pressure works. And earlier I told you that sometimes you need to ask yourself why the peer pressure does not work towards the positive, it only work towards negative. So you will realize that if the peer pressure cannot work towards the positive thing, but only towards the negative thing, then we play a very major role towards this negative thing. The button, or the person who initiates whatever happens in our lives, is us. You see, the peer pressure can have influence towards what you're going to do. But I believe if you say no, if you can say no, then nobody will come and tell you to start something. Unless they tell you, you agree, and you take the first step. So today I want to urge you not to take that first step. Even if you are given the baton, take the baton into your hands and look at it. And ask yourself whether you're going to press this button or not. Sometimes you just don't need to know the repercussions or the consequences which are going to come after pressing that button. But sometimes if you don't know, if you are afraid, then you need to find out what is going to happen if you push that button. If you are lucky enough, you may land safely. But what about if you are not lucky? Sometimes we cannot put our hope in luck, because something that you cannot calculate. And we realize that most of the things that happen in our life is most calculated. That's the reason why you will realize that we have very little happiness, but big sadness. So it means that there's no one point where sadness can come and drive happiness. Sadness is always there. So it means that you have to create happiness to drive away sadness. So today I want to tell you that the first hindrance to solving a problem is finding a scapegoat. The moment you find a scapegoat, the moment you find an excuse, your body will relax. It will not relax because you've solved the problem, but your body will relax because you find a way out. You have escaped, but the problem is there with you. You will be comfortable in your home knowing that the reason why this happened is because of peer pressure, not because of me. The moment you fail to take the responsibility upon yourself, that is the moment you start to fail. Taking the responsibility and blaming yourself sometime. I know many times we are told that don't blame yourself for this. I know there are things, there are mistakes which happen, which we try to blame ourselves for them, but they happen not because of us. But sometimes we blame ourselves for them. And if we can blame ourselves for the mistakes or the problems or the things which happened, not because of us, why can't we take responsibility and blame ourselves for the things that happen in our lives which affect our life? Because these things are fundamental in deciding or in ensuring that you lead a better life. Taking responsibility and understanding that this one was a mistake, I need to take in this responsibility and find a way out is easier. Because when you give your mind, if you give your brain something to work on, your brain will always find a solution. But when you give your brain a comfort zone where your brain will not be able to do some stuff, some hard work, your brain will also sleep. But the moment you wake up, you will realize that the same problem is still with you. So before you blame peer pressure, before you blame that colleague, before you blame that group, what I want you to know is that we might be participating in something together, but sometimes the consequences might be different. The consequences might be heavier on you than the other. So before you start blaming that friend, before you start blaming that peer pressure, before you start blaming where you are working, before you start blaming where you are taken to school, take that responsibility upon yourself. Weigh it. Don't let it take you to the ocean, but weigh out, then find the best solution to your problems. Finding a scapegoat is not going to help you. I'm talking to millions of people outside there who are addicted to drugs, and they pray to live. They pray that one day, one time, they will stop taking alcohol, they will stop smoking bang, they will stop doing heroin, and they will stop doing cocaine. And I tell you, just the way you made the first step is the same way you need to make the first step towards achieving, eradicating those things in your life, because it is possible. Because it is possible. So before you start blaming anything, before you start blaming any other party, look upon yourself. If the blaming is on you, take it. And I promise you, your brain is going to find a solution. That is if you want to find a solution.